everyone. Welcome to this episode of Claims Never Sleep. I'm your host, Meghan Henry, and I'm alone again today. Co-host Jen is on vacation, enjoying the sand and the sea, and that's great. But it's fine because I'm joined by Mary Rossi today, and Mary is like talking to an old friend. In fact, she is kind of an old friend. I've met her years ago, and we hit it off then, and it's no different now. And Mary is launching a new course that I think any claims professional should look into attending, because it's a perfect complement to the claims industry and at the very early stages of your claims and how to approach certain aspects of your claims, and whether you're an independent adjuster or you're a claims professional, and she's all in on it and hands on, and I just think it's a wonderful idea, and I encourage anyone who is interested to look up. But anyway, I'll have her tell you more about it. With that, let me bring her in.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Meghan Henry.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. It's afternoon for me, it's morning for you. But Mary, I'm so happy to have you today. How are you?
Thank you, Meghan. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It is still morning here. It's 11:35, but we're creeping in on the noon hour.
Yes, and it looks like it's sunny and beautiful where you are, and that's what I like to see.
It is. It was hot yesterday. It was 96 yesterday. And it's supposed to be in the 80s today, which is much more palatable for me.
Yes. Well, here it's hot and sticky and humid and gross. It's like soup. So
I'm sorry.
But anyway, yeah. And as we were just saying, it's like the technical, I guess it's not the official last day of school, but it's the last day of school at my house. So everyone is happy to embrace summer here.
Good. That's exciting. Last day of school is always an exciting thing.
It is.
Yeah.
But Mary, I'm just so happy to have you. You and I connected years and years ago. I think it was back in 2021, I think, because we were wearing masks. I remember there being masks involved at the TIDA conference. And at that conference, I think I was doing mini podcasts there, and in like the vendor area, and your table was right near where we were doing it, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit, and I just loved you. You were delightful, and I'm so happy our paths have crossed again, and you're on a new adventure that we're going to talk a little bit about today. But I love when the stars align and paths cross again. So thank you for making our paths cross once again.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate this opportunity, and it was amazing to meet you. Yeah, it was in 2021. I can't believe it's been that long. And that was a fun conference, but trying to navigate those masks made it a little bit difficult, but we got through it.
I know. Yeah, I'm so glad we're out of those days.
Me too.
So let's dive in a little bit. And normally when we dive in on this, we talk about how you got into claims, and your journey is as unique as everyone else's. So let's start from the beginning. Like, what was your path into the claims world or the claims universe?
Sure. So I just sort of fell into it, Meghan. I was going to school. I was going to college, and I wanted to earn some extra money. I had some extra time, and back then there were ads in the newspaper. This was 1989. Mm-hmm. And I responded to an ad for a typist and a receptionist, basically. And so I ended up interviewing with an independent adjusting company. I had no idea what an IA was. I had no clue, but I could type, and fast. I could type. We had to take typing back then in school. And so I interviewed, I got the job, and it was with an independent adjuster. And so I started answering phones and typing reports for her. And then when she started having me type recorded statements, I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. This is really interesting. I love this. And so one thing led to another. And before long, she had me out doing scene investigations. And she just sort of took me under her wing. I continued with school, and I loved investigation. And I just, like I said, I just sort of fell into it. And 36 years later, here I am.
Still here.
Still here.
Still investigating.
Still loving it.
So what is it though about investigations that really like drives your passion?
You know, I was always, when I grew up as a kid, I loved putting puzzles together. I love sci-fi. I like breaking things apart, putting them back together. And I'm just really driven by the whole investigation piece and taking a case and, breaking it down and, turning over all of those stones and putting it together. It's kind of like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really driven by, that. I just love it.
And have you, well, what I am curious about though, over the years, I'm sure that you've had some ahas or gotcha like moments. I would love to hear if there's any that you can share.
Aha moments, gotchas. I don't know. I just continued in claims and saw the path that was laid out before me. And I guess I could say I had some aha moments when, I saw more and more and more opportunity. And, at one point, it's scary to jump. It's scary to leave a carrier because you get comfortable. And, but yet, I started back when I left the IA employer back then. I was with her probably for about 6 or 7 years. And I started with the actual, carrier side of things. I went to work for the old Maryland Casualty, and it was my first carrier job, and it was so exciting, but I got really bored, and I wanted to learn more and more, and I wanted to, grow with the company. And I think that was a time where I did have an aha moment, and I just sort of sat back and said, you know what, if you want to grow, you've got to go elsewhere. Because they weren't given the opportunity back then to teach us and to give us more opportunity to put more tools in our belt. So I ended up going over to Reliance. Our commercial auto manager left and went over to Reliance and took a few of us with her. And it was at that point in my career, I think that was probably the biggest aha moment for me. Pam was amazing. She was an incredible mentor. And I learned other lines of business, started to learn other lines of business, and also started to handle some litigated files. So that was probably the biggest aha moment in my career. And, what a blessing it was.
So, and how did you find the transition to go from independent adjusting to the carrier? Because that had to be, that's a change, right? It's different. You're kind of looking at things from a slightly different angle. So how was that transition for you?
It was a huge transition because as an independent adjuster, if you've never worked for a carrier before, you don't really understand the inner workings. And so once I transitioned to the carrier, it took a little bit of getting used to because we had underwriting in the same building. You've got lots of managers, you've got different departments, and it's like the heartbeat is all right there. And so, but I transitioned really well.
Yeah. So let's fast forward though. So so now you have your own business for independent adjusting, right? So tell me a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about your newest venture.
Okay, sure. So I never thought I would own my own business, and 6 years ago,
isn't it the best?
It is. It really is. And, until you become an entrepreneur, you never really think about it. And, now all I do is think about entrepreneurial stuff. And so 6 years ago, my dad got sick. He was diagnosed with dementia. And it was really hard for me to handle my carrier, desk. I had, an enormous caseload. And it got really tough. And so I decided to go out on my own so I could have time to take care of my folks. And my mom didn't drive, so I really, needed to help them. And it was at that time that I decided that I was going to go out and get my license and, take a shot at being an independent adjuster. And what a great decision. Twofold, threefold. I was able to, be there for my folks. I was able to, help my mom and dad. And I was on the road and handling claims. And, my former employer was amazing. They were so supportive. They continue to be supportive. I do quite a bit of work for them. And it has just been a great ride. I just had my 6th year anniversary in June when I opened my doors in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically hit the ground running, Meghan. I'm so blessed that I knew a number of people in the industry and I had lots of carrier experience. The vast majority of my career had been as a carrier adjuster. And so it really gave me sort of the edge because I'd worked for a carrier and I really know, what adjusters expect. And so it's been a really great ride. It's been a total blessing. And I love what I do. I dig investigation and I like handling all the different types of cases. So many different lines of business. You don't just handle like auto or GL. It's like everything.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So for your company, is it just you or do you have people working with you?
It is just me. Yep. I wear all the hats.
So so how do you manage all of that? Like it has to be overwhelming to be responsible for all the hats, although it's equally as overwhelming if you're responsible for the livelihood of others. So there's a stress on both sides, but how do you manage the juggle of that?
So, it just, I am busy and, you're
like, I'm busy. I'm pretty busy.
I'm busy. And, fortunately, I'm able to juggle a lot of things. I've always been able to multitask and, I credit my success to being a very proficient multitasker because, in claims, it's busy. I mean, you're bouncing and you're, especially being on the road. So I also use a special claim software where it helps me with billing, for example. So I can input my time kind of like, with a law firm, you put in your time and it actually, creates an invoice. So, that's not difficult, but you just really have to be diligent with your time. And it's kind of like a stats class. If you miss a couple of days, you're behind. So I just, I'm diligent with my time. I'm on the road. I try to have certain set office days, like Monday, Tuesday. I try to have as office days where I can get all my admin done, where I can get my reports done. And then I try to have meetings like Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. So, and if you stick to a schedule, for me, that really works. Of course, then I work some weekends. I try not to work. I used to work a lot of weekends, but I try to, trying to have a little bit more fun in life.
So it's hard not to work the weekends and it's also hard to stick to that schedule. I have the same problem with juggling, practice work and fitting in like the podcast. And I have to really limit myself to be like, okay, I can only fit in like one recording a week. Like you have to try to like schedule it. Otherwise it can take over.
It can. Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I'm pretty routine and I try to stick to my schedule. But sometimes you have to, my favorite term, INA, improvise and adjust. And, yes. Improvise and adjust. That's what it's all about. So.
And having said all that, like you have your business on your plate and now you're starting another business. So tell us about that.
So the Academy, Rossi Claims Academy, back in the day, when I was with Farmers Large Loss, I was there for 13 years and I had an opportunity to work with some mentees and I think it was 3 or 4 adjusters that were more entry level. And I had an opportunity to work with them and, to teach them. And I just really enjoyed that. And I've always loved that aspect of teaching. I coached at the college level for a number of years. I coached women's softball, and I love working with people. I love coaching. I love teaching. It's just so fulfilling. And I started thinking about developing an academy, a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. And, I just started slowly thinking about it and more and more and more, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I just decided, okay, there's nothing out there like it. There's a lot of property, there's a lot of property classes for, fire, flood, those sort of cases, but there's not a lot on the liability, track. And so I decided that I'm going to do it, and the time is now, and I want to teach. I'm not stepping away from my business. I will continue with my claims business, but I have put curriculum together. I've been working on curriculum actually for a couple of years. And I just had a first training a couple of months ago with 30 adjusters, and that was fabulous. That went really well. And that was really great feedback. So I'm in the development stage of rolling out the academy, and I am very excited about it. So
okay. So tell us a little bit more about the academy, though. So, your audience, your target audience is who? Claims professionals, right?
Well, yes, primarily claims professionals. But I also want to be able to, expose this to folks that are, not in the industry, that maybe don't know anything about the claims industry. And, college, for example, kids that are in college, that you have that certain group of students that they know what they want to do. They know they want to be a doctor. They know they want to be an attorney. They know they want to be an architect. But then you have that other group that they're not really sure. They're going to college or junior college, and they're taking, their regular classes. Those are the folks that I would really like to reach out to, show them what they can do in the insurance industry. I just don't think a lot of people know about the opportunity in this business, about the long-term opportunity they can have as a claims adjuster. And there's huge opportunity there. So part of what I want to do also, and I did reach out in the county that I live in, I did reach out to Placer, and they've got some job fairs coming up. And after having a conversation with them, they actually want me to present at one of their functions to talk about, the claims industry and what's available as an adjuster. So it's kind of twofold. It's current adjusters, and then, folks who may be looking to get into the industry.
Which is perfect, because you and I were talking about this on the phone as well. And I've talked to I can't even count how many people I've talked to this about how do we get more people in the insurance industry, and how do we attract the younger generation? Because let's face it, people are retiring and they're aging out of this, and what's going to happen? Because it's not like the industry is going to go away. So, and I think this is perfect, because it helps attract people to claims and get more people interested in this profession, because we need them, right?
We really do. And that's another big reason why I was so motivated with the academy and teaching, is a lot of the adjusters are retiring out, and most of those adjusters, they handle the big complex cases. They handle the heavy duty stuff. And you've got that mid-level adjuster, who's maybe been in the business 5-7 years. I really also want to reach out to that adjuster to help them level up and teach them other lines of business. Maybe they're just doing commercial auto or GL. There's so many, different cases that, and lines of business that they can learn. And the more tools that they have in their bag will only help them and not get left behind. And another factor to think about is AI, which, I think is going to be great in one context, because it's going to, help reduce the mundane, repetitive tasks. But I think on the other hand, it may reduce numbers, it may reduce workforce. So this is a time for adjusters to really take their career to the next level so they're not left behind.
Yes. Well, and I mean, and I'm so glad you're addressing AI too, because we talk about it a lot on our end too, on the law firm side, because
Yes.
we can't ignore it, right? It's coming. It's not coming. It's already here.
It's here.
And clients are expecting you to utilize it and to make yourself more efficient. I mean, if there are things that you can do to make us more efficient at our jobs, doesn't mean it takes out the analytics. Like we
Right.
still need to use our brains,
Right.
but there are processes on the claim side and even the legal side that AI can help streamline those processes to make us just more efficient attorneys and litigators and claims professionals. If you don't have to spend time doing like the mindless type tasks and can concentrate more on the thought tasks, we're going to get a lot more accomplished.
That's exactly right. And, and that's exactly what adjusters, we're paid, to use our brains. We're paid to make decisions. We're paid to, handle complex matters. And so, having the routine tasks, handled by AI, I think that's fantastic. So I think it's time, for maybe the more entry-level adjuster. If I were an entry-level adjuster in today's world, I would be a little concerned with AI, and I would want to keep learning. I would want to put as many tools that I can in my, in my chest. And so I would want to learn as much as I possibly could, so I could continue to advance.
Mm-hmm. So actually one thing I wanted to put up here, hang on, let's see if I can do it. Cause you sent me, oh man, you had sent me your flyer and I don't know how to get it up, but okay. Let's dive into a little, even though I'm technologically challenged as we're talking about using AI, and I'm like, I can't even pull up a PDF because I didn't save it right. But let's talk about the course in general, though. What are, like, I'm looking at, you're offering how to become a rock star adjuster. Okay.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about the nitty gritty of the course. Like, what is the course going to entail? What should anyone expect if anyone was interested in doing this? Like, what are you, like, how many classes is it? What are you going to go? Don't give them what you're going to teach them, because then no one's going to sign up. But
right. So becoming a rock star adjuster doesn't happen overnight, as you know. It's, claims, it's like building blocks. I look back at my career and I look back at, 35 plus years of handling claims. And I consider myself a rock star adjuster because I have handled everything from soup to nuts. I've handled probably 10,000 claims in my career. And so it will take time to build those levels. Mm-hmm. And really what I want to do is I want to keep building. And, the webinars that I'm offering in September, those are going to be more of like an intro, somebody who's maybe, 2-3 years in the business, even a brand new adjuster who's brand new in the business. And those are going to be more intro cases, but we're going to look at real life case studies. And, for example, with auto, everybody knows how to handle a rear ender, but do they really look at the nitty gritty? Do they look at, you got a 3-car rear ender, for example, and, most people are going to say, oh, well, the very rear vehicle is at fault. Well, not necessarily. We're going to break it down and we're going to look at, some of the investigation tasks that we really should be doing with those types of cases. Looking for surveillance, looking for witnesses, tracking cars down immediately, because the physical damage of the vehicle is telling, right? Especially if you have a 3-car rear end accident, right? Tracking, looking at the metal, the lead driver is critical in getting their statement to find out how many impacts they felt, which impact did they feel first. And I did a training on this 3-car rear ender a while back. And it was, it was really great. Got some really great feedback and things that adjusters really didn't think about. And what I also did with that was I showed 2 examples. I did a proactive investigation and I showed a non-proactive investigation, and I took it all the way through settlement and showed, basically what the end result was with a proactive versus a proactive investigation. And so they're 4-week courses, and they're webinars, basically 5:30 p.m. to 7 Pacific time. And so they'll continue to build. So your first course will be more intro, and then your second course will go into a little more complex. So as we progress, we're going to get a little bit more complex each time. It's going to involve injuries. It's going to involve taking really effective recorded statements. And recorded statements.
Yes, that's such a good skill.
Oh gosh, it's so important, because I like to tell adjusters, think about this claim right here. This claim, think about this being in litigation. Okay. Not every claim goes into litigation, but think about this claim as if it were going to go into litigation 2 years down the road. What's going to be helpful right now? Right. So I like them to think in those levels, in those terms, that this is not just a claim today. This could end up having a few chapters down the road. And it's amazing, because then you see eyes just kind of open up and go, oh my God, that question could really help when it's litigated. Yes. Like how many rear end accidents do you have where somebody says, oh, I now have a torn rotator cuff, but they didn't hit anything in the vehicle. And, what's really important, I think, which would help like a biomechanic down the road, is where were your hands at the time of the accident? Most people are going to go, well, they're on the steering wheel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but were they really? Like, are really both your hands on the steering wheel? Like, I mean, I know when I drive, I usually have one hand on the steering wheel and one like on the shift thing or in my hair or right. I mean, maybe Mary drives 12 and 2, but
no, Mary doesn't drive 12 and 2. 10 and 2. 10 and 2. Yeah.
10 and whatever. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I had a case years ago where we had a double rotator cuff repair, and nobody took the statement. And when it came to me in litigation, it was a rear end accident. It was really not a big impact. And the guy went out and had 2 shoulder, repairs. And when he was deposed in litigation, because we didn't have a statement before, when he was deposed in litigation, his answer was, oh, I was stopped. I had my arms on the wheel and I was resting while I was in traffic. And so that put his arms in the right position, right? From a biomechanic standpoint to maybe make it. Yeah. So was, anyhow, it's questions like that are really important for, future chapters.
I mean, this is important even for depositions. That's important even for depositions. That's like that alone, because a lot of times when you see the arm and shoulder injuries in motor vehicle accidents, a lot of times they don't make a lot of sense.
Right.
And the positioning of your arms is very important to understanding that better.
Right.
Necks and backs, I get.
Don't you hate when your hair is sticking out?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But you have beautiful hair, so
thank you. It's just today's a hair day.
So you have your first set of courses that are like 4 weeks long, but I think what is important, and I know you mentioned it, but I think we need to stress on this. These are live classes. So this is not a pre-recorded class that, someone just, like you are there, you're a resource. It's interactive. It's because there's so many times I feel like there's these things like, oh yeah, we have this course and it's just a recorded thing and you just sit there and you have, it's pretty much on you. But this is like Mary is your personal professor. Personal claims professor.
Exactly. And this is different. And I can remember trainings back in the day where it was like, oh my God, we have to sit through 8 hours of training and you're just like dying, right? And this is different. This is going to be live. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be, fun. It's going to be engaging. And I'm passionate. I mean, I'll be the first to say I am passionate about what I do. And, I'm an investigation geek, and I want to, teach, I want to take my pearls and my knowledge, and I want to impart it on the next generation and help them to really level up. And I just don't know that a lot of adjusters realize what's out there and what's available. So the courses are going to be live. They're going to be fun. They're going to be interactive, and we're going to cover some real serious content, and they're going to learn, and they're going to learn from a rock star.
Yes. So, and to go along with this though, you have your business, like you have your adjusting business, and you have your course, and then you also run a winery.
Yes, I have a vineyard. It's not
so
quite.
So it's not quite a winery. Did I sell you too much?
Not quite yet. Although I do. I
tell me about it.
Although I do make wine, and have made wine for a few years, and in the process of becoming licensed so I can have a wine club. I planted a vineyard, now about 6 years ago, and 2022 was first harvest. And so it's been really exciting. I've got 3 pretty big blocks of vines, and they're producing like crazy. And, now I've hit that year 6 where the grapes are really rocking and rolling. And I make a port and a blend. So and I've got a winemaker, Matt DiVisconti. He's just been a total blessing. He and I crossed paths after I put the grapes in, and I ended up having grapes. I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something with this. And I took a winemaking class at UC Davis, and the instructor connected me with Matt. And 6 years later, Matt's become like my brother, and he's amazing. And he's taught me so much. So I'm going to hopefully let him run with the wine club.
Okay. Yeah. So, but where do you have it? Do you have this growing like on your property, or do you have another like piece of land that you have everything growing? Okay.
Yeah, so it's on my property. I have 5 acres and a home, and I've got grapes and horses, and I've got 3 horses. Yes. And so,
so idyllic.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot of work, but I do have help, and because I can't do it all. I just can't. And it just, the right people come into your life. It's like, it's just been such a blessing to have help, physically with the property and the grapes and everything that goes with that. So, because I'm on the road. I mean, I put on 38,000 miles last year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I know. How
did you come to this, the vineyard? Was it just like you had a green thumb and you're like, I live in the right area, and I'm going to try my hand in grapes and winemaking? Like, how did you come about to it? Because I planted a grape plant in my yard, and it has yet to do. I mean, I did it years ago. But I mean, whatever. It's just, it grows. It's growing. It's just not producing. So
well, I never thought that I would ever plant grapes. I never dreamed I'd have a vineyard. And when Dad got sick, I just wanted to plant a few vines for him so he could play and have fun. He always wanted to have grapes. He did. He always wanted a vineyard, and he never could. And I had an area below the house. And so I put in 110 Cab and Merlot. And that first year, Megan, oh my gosh, he was just delighted. And he got to eat the grapes, and I would tell him, Pop, you can't eat those. And he would laugh, and, because they have seeds. And so he got to play, in the vineyard until he really started to, progress in 2021. And we lost him in November 1st of 2021. And I wish he could have hung in there for first harvest, which was 2022. But
I know, I do too.
Yeah. but he got to play in the grapes and have fun, and he just was in his glory. So that's sort of how it all started. And then I was like, okay, I have another area for grapes, and I planted another block, and then I had another area and planted another block, and now I'm done planting grapes. No more grapes. So yeah.
But now you can always look out on it, and it's like you can think of your father,
Yeah,
and
I do.
it's
I do.
always
He's all over.
going to, yeah. And I
Yeah,
kind of, and he's growing,
yeah,
he's
he's all
it's
over
kind
the
of like,
property.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
back to claims.
okay. All right.
But I mean, we could talk about grapes and wine and your dad too. But I wanted to make sure I touched on this too, because okay, so you're gonna have your first class. Are you doing multiple types of classes?
So yes, I am. I'm doing in September. I've got a webinar for GL, general liability, and a webinar for auto. And those are going to be designed for 4 weeks, and those will, after 4 weeks, level 2 and level 3 will be available in October. Will be level 2. Level 3 will be available in November. December, we're going to chill because December is, crazy, and it's busy, and it's Christmas and vacations, and then we'll be ready to, roll again in January. But in addition to the webinars, I also offer custom training. And because every carrier is different, you've got some carriers that write certain lines of business. You've got some carriers that maybe they've got, more mid to upper level adjusters where maybe they want to learn, unfortunately, I handle some really heavy stuff like, abuse and habitability, for example. Not a lot of adjusters know how to handle HAB cases. I do quite a lot of HAB cases. Fentanyl overdose, shootings. Yeah, the heavy duty stuff.
Really hard stuff. Yeah.
It's, it is really hard stuff, and it's hard content. And so, I've got custom training that's available for, that class of adjuster that, maybe doesn't need the intro. They're past that. But, after the 3 levels of auto and GL, then I'm going to offer an intro into litigation and, injury evaluation. So there's a lot of different areas that I can go into. But I also, too, have to be careful that I don't overextend myself. And so I'm thinking 2 evenings a week will be perfect. And I'll still have, plenty of time to do all the other 9 million things in life that I do.
Well, and that's important, though, that you put those kind of self-inflicted boundaries on yourself, because you also want to be very present for your students, right? And if you overschedule, you're going to get burnt out, and you're not going to be your head isn't going to be there as much as you'd want it to be,
right?
So it is important to put those boundaries. And it's like the same thing I was saying earlier when I tried to do with this podcast, because what I found is I love filming podcasts. I enjoy this quite a bit. However, if I do too many of them in a short period of time, like it still tolls on you. Like you have to be in it. So I don't want to give my guests a less engaged version of myself. And it's the same way for you, and people are paying you money. Right. So you need to deliver. No pressure.
Absolutely. And, and my claims business is so important to me. It's so important that, I continue to offer great service and, a fantastic rock star product. And, because the cases that, I handle, a lot of them are really heavy duty. And they take a lot of prep time. They take, I had a case a few weeks ago where I had 21 interviews over 2 days. And yes. And that's, and there's a lot of time that goes into, looking at documents and reviewing and prepping and then going through the interview and then the report process. So I need to be able to not overextend, like you said. And so I'm really mindful of that.
Yes. I think some of the advanced levels and even the not advanced levels of your courses are good for attorneys to attend, because these are all skills that, especially when you're talking about, those heavy hitting types of cases,
Right.
I think it could be a very an attorney handling those files, or someone new in like maybe they get their first type of case that they're helping out a partner on. Having that kind of education on it would be very helpful. I remember like when I got my first, sexual abuse type matter, I didn't have the faintest idea of what I should be doing. And I just had to figure it out as I went along.
Right.
And, like I had a partner I could lean on, but still at the
Right.
same time, like as much as you want to ask the questions of the partner, you also want them to think you're competent enough to figure things out on your own. So
Exactly.
you can't ask
Yes.
all of the questions.
Right.
So having a resource like that would have been very, very helpful.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And, I had a case yesterday, and most people would go, oh, there's no liability. It's, it was a facility where you had some interactive stuff going on, and I can't give it too much detail.
Sure.
But, customers come in and they pay to, play these various games, and an older man had a heart attack and died. And so, my focus right away went to, the AED machine, and the use of the AED machine, and the training of the employees, and are they CPR certified, and, when did they get their certification? And then you shift to, okay, maintenance of the AED. How long have you had the AED? Has the battery ever been changed? Do you guys check it regularly to see if the battery is working? And the pads, because the pads have to be replaced, because it's not like you're using an AED every day.
No.
So those are things that sometimes people go, aha, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Because you would think somebody has a heart attack, and what did you do to cause the heart attack? You didn't do anything to cause the heart attack. But plaintiff attorneys, they're going to look for whatever is going to stick, right? They're going to look for those tiny little holes, whatever they can throw at the wall. Maybe this will stick. So,
yes.
So there's a lot of different types of scenarios out there, where we investigate drownings and,
the response. Yeah. So I help out at our like local swim club. I'm like on the board, and like these are conversations we have quite a bit at internally, as like, in fact, we have someone on the board that's a paramedic, which is, we make sure we have lots of people with lots of different backgrounds to cover all the different issues that could arise. And he was mentioning the AED devices recently too, and he found a service that regularly comes in and maintains the devices. And I was like, money well spent.
Totally money well spent. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I don't, the legal end of things, obviously I turn over to counsel, but I want to develop the facts, because, there are some organizations like health clubs, for example, they're required, I believe, and you are an attorney, but, there are organizations, and I know law in California, there are organizations that, are required to have an AED. And I think it's important to develop the information. Okay, if you have an AED on your premises, develop all the facts around it. When was it purchased? Has it ever been used? The training, the service around it, because they need to be serviced just like anything else. Batteries die. Batteries die. And, so it's definitely
like, it's just like it's like, even think about like a commercial motor vehicle case, and something goes wrong with the brakes, you're going to look at what are your maintenance records. It's very similar concept.
Exactly. Right.
And I like that. I don't like that you mentioned drownings, but it made me think about that. That is a very difficult area too, because, you can have lifeguards, you can have the required amount of lifeguards, they can be trained, but sometimes drowning can be hard to spot. And while they are trained to do it, and they are looking at the pool, but it doesn't mean it's a foolproof, because you still have human on human, right? And a lot of times lifeguards are kids.
Exactly.
And they're trained and they're certified, but they're still kids. And they could be following all the rules and everything, but
Right. And retraining too is really important, because, like, for example, a lot of people will become CPR certified, and during the CPR certification, they'll get to learn how to use the AED, and, they get to practice on the, the models, and But once you get in a life situation, I mean, it could be, a year down the road where you've had your training and now you're in a life situation. And so I think it's important to, put your folks through, a real quick retraining, and maybe just talk about it while you're, at the office. Instead of going for official retraining, just pull the AED out and say, hey guys, this is what we should be doing. We should be testing it. Even if you test it, a couple of times a week, press the button, see the battery's still working. And hey, remember, here are the pads. Remember, hey, here's the mask. It's not about just putting pads on a chest and waiting for it to tell you to deliver a shock. There's also a mask in case somebody needs, mouth to mouth. So I think there's definitely, some advantage there with the retraining and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, that retraining, and it needs to be visited, I think, often.
Yeah.
And we do it, like we do like a midsummer retraining, just because even though, they were certified early, it's a refresher, right?
Right. And those are things that plaintiff attorneys are looking at, right? They're looking to find those holes. And so, and that's why I like to think, with a claim, I hate to say this, but I think like a plaintiff attorney, where are they going to find the breaches? Where are they going to find the holes? You have to.
It's even going to trial. That's all you're thinking about. What are they going to poke holes? I mean, not even just trial. You're going to think about this for your entire case, but like, where are our problems? And you have to be almost your own devil's advocate, right? Because you do get lost. You can get lost in the forest and think that your defenses are great and everything is wonderful and we got it. But like, you have to see exactly what they're going to poke the hole and make the hole bigger. Exactly. And then make that whole distraction. And, a lot of times, even so, that could have nothing to do with what actually happened, but they could blow it up and make the jury believe that's what really happened. And that's the biggest issue, and the one you have to be worried the most about, because people are people. And if they're on a jury, and they could be very distracted by that object over there.
Totally. Exactly. What is it called? The reptile theory?
Reptile theory. There you go.
Theory. Get them upset right out of the gate.
Yes. We need Sherry Bellitz over here to tell us all about it.
That's her wheelhouse. Yeah.
Maybe next time we'll have a Mary and Sherry podcast.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah.
I would love it. Yeah. I love Sherry. Yeah. So Mary, we're just about out of time, but before we close up, I want to ask you this, and then I have a follow closing question. But knowing what you know now, what advice would you give younger Mary?
Younger Mary, the advice I would give younger Mary is to take care of her temple and in claims. Seriously. I ran really hard in claims for a lot of years, and, like we all do. And I worked, 60-hour weeks, and I just, worked weekends, and I didn't, exercise. I exercised, but I didn't really. And, claims can be a really stressful job. And we deal with some really heavy content. And even the adjusters that don't deal with the heavy content yet, we have heavy caseloads. We're busy. We're running. We need to take care of our temple. We need to eat well. We need to sleep well. We need to get up and walk away. And, I'm guilty of sitting here at my desk and eating lunch and not getting up and walking away. But that changed for me, a few years ago. So I think that if I were to backtrack, 20 or 30 years, I would have made the wellness piece much more front and center in my life. And that's a piece of advice that I would give to adjusters today and to young Mary 20, 30 years ago.
I mean, I think that's great advice. And it's advice that, like, even I'm guilty of. Like, I've always been very healthy and, stayed in shape, and sometimes to my own detriment, like a little like neurotic about it. And I fell off the wagon a little bit this year. And now it's summer, and I'm like, all right, there's a little extra time. I don't need to make lunches in the morning. I don't need to get kids on buses. Like, I need to make sure I carve out this time for myself.
Yes.
Because when you don't feel good, like, it kind of just affects you all around. Like, not that I don't feel good, but you don't like exercise makes me feel good.
Yes, me too.
It
Exactly.
just does. It makes me happier. It makes me feel strong. Feeling strong makes me feel good.
Yes, exactly. And it's so important because, we don't feel well and then we project it on others and family and, and the whole stress piece of it. Again, I hit a point in my career. This was back, when I was at Farmers, and all I would get was fatality after fatality. And I get a new claim and I go, oh my God, it's going to be another fatal. And I'm talking to somebody who's crying on the phone. That can affect you. That can really affect you mentally. And so that's why it's so important. Yeah. And, as you go on in years, and I'm in a different place now, but, there was a point where you get super depressed, and I wish that I would have known then what I know now, because I would have started my meditation practice way back then. I would have taken care of myself better way back then. And, it's never too late. I'm doing it now.
Right.
And, and eating healthy. And, I've had a few little challenges, nothing significant, but, I'm seriously taking care of my temple now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of you last night as we were coming home from, practiced games, whatever it was, and talking in the car about what we should have for dinner. And unfortunately, we eat so much takeout just because of schedules. And I remember saying to my older daughter, I'm like, I just don't want takeout tonight. I just want to cook something at home. And she's like, me too. I'm so sick of takeout. And she's like, I really want tacos. And so we made tacos. And then I was like, I had bought this giant thing of kale. I'm like, I'm putting kale in my taco.
Oh, good. Hey.
Kale is not the norm. But I'm like, it has so many nutrients, and you know what? I made a kale and ground beef quesadilla, and it knocked it out of the park. It was delicious. Highly recommend.
Yum. Good job. Good job. Yes. Healthy eating is so important. I was blessed. I was blessed to meet a fabulous, person who is a dear friend of mine today, and she's really helped turn my world around in nutrition. And I thought I always ate well, but I guess I really didn't. And I've really learned, what is good for Mary and what is not good for Mary. So.
Yeah. I go through spurts of eating well and, not, but I had that kale last night and it was delicious.
Good.
So Mary, we can't close this up without you letting everyone know where they can find it, how they sign up, and to tell their friends.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So you're going to see a pretty big LinkedIn presence coming forward. So soon,
all right,
you're going to see flyers on LinkedIn. The flyers will have the information on the class and how to sign up. And I'll be doing some spots on LinkedIn, and my contact information, my phone number is 916-955-7429. Email address is mary@rossiclaimservices.com. So you'll be able to, email me, you can call me. And then again, be watching on LinkedIn because I'm going to have quite a bit of information here very soon coming out on LinkedIn. And if everybody would hit the share button, whoever's watching this, if you all would hit the repost button, I would really appreciate it, because I'd really like to get this out to the insurance community. So any help would be fantastic and appreciated.
Yeah, I second that. Anyone out there listening who knows someone that wants to be a rock star adjuster, they themselves want to be a rock star adjuster, or you think someone should be a rock star adjuster, share the course. I think it has a ton of value, and I just think it's going to blow up for you, Mary, too. I think this course can be followed by adjusters. I think their attorneys can do it. I think it's a great resource, and I'm so happy you started it.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. That really means the world to me, and I'm very excited about this. I'm super passionate, and I'm really excited for September to come and to get rolling.
Me too. Yes, same. So of course, everyone knows what they need to do. Find Mary, follow Mary, sign up to be a rock star. And then, of course, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Claims Never Sleep. If you like what you hear, please Follow us on your favorite streaming platform, and you can also find us on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Meghan Henry.